Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Liz and this is Let's Get Lizical, where we do everything card making. And today we're going to do a 3D box card without using any dies. I've done this one in the past, I think once before. So we're going to do it again. I don't even know if it's the same dimensions as I did last time, to be honest. I came up with new ones, so let's get started with that. So what you're going to need for the base itself is a 5.5 by 3.5 inch panel times 2 if you want to sandwich your pieces in between so that you have room to write on the back. If you want, you can cut a 3.5 by 5.5 inch note card to glue on the back instead. I just wanted the night sky, so I cut this in blue. And then this is in white because I'll just be able to write the message directly on the back. Then you're going to need the front part of it, which is shaped like this. So I cut mine 1 inch in height. I wouldn't go much smaller than this, maybe 3/4 at the most. You want something that's going to help your card stand and be sturdy. So for this one, you want 1 inch by 5 3/4. And then you're going to score at 3/8 and 1 1/8 from each side. And then that will give you a 3/4 inch depth and a 1 inch height panel that is 3.5 inches. And then once it folds flat, it'll be 4 1/4. So this will fit into an A2 sized envelope because it will be A2 once it's folded flat. And then if you want to add a center dimensional piece, you want to cut this 1 by 4 1/4 and then score it 3/8 of an inch from each side. So I did 3/8 instead of my standard 3/4 just because it's a little bit easier to fold over. So I think 3/8 is the best fold over because it's just easier. And then trying to do like the 1/4 inch fold over is a little bit harder. I find this a bit easier. You could go up to half if you wanted to. If you want like a little bit more like even numbers here, but I think the 3/8 is fine. So this will go in as an insert, and then you can do this either way. I saw somebody do it this way. I think Charlene did it in a video the other day. She did like I think it was a Pretty Pink Posh die set with flamingos, and she did it where like the tabs come forward so you can like space it out a little bit better. I've never glued them that way. I always glue them backwards. I don't know, like I would glue them like this. I think either way, because this is pretty much at the halfway point, you could kind of like butt it up into either corner and just kind of like make sure it was at the halfway point. It's going to be fairly simple. And then I just have some extra panels for the background because I'm going to build up some scenery. I think originally I was going to put these two in the background and then put some like images in the scenery, but I think what I'm going to do is put this in the background, and we're going to stamp lawn fawns over the mountain borders. I'm going to put some mountains in the background here. I might have to make this panel a little bit higher, or I can just put it up and then this will get covered at the bottom. I would prefer it to be a little bit taller, so I might just cut another panel for that. But again, originally I was going to layer it, so I did this and then did another panel here. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the mountains maybe approximately here. Sorry, I'm like off camera here. So I think I'm going to do the mountains up about here. And then the middle I probably want about here, so I might still be able to get away with it. But I think this panel I'm going to put the trees on, and I would like to prop that up onto this on the insert so that it's a little bit more dimensional than what I was originally thinking. So I think I'll do it that way. So then it will be like mountains and then trees. So I do want them to overlap like a bit, so like the recipient's not going to see. So this is 1 inch in height. You probably want it maybe 3/4 of an inch above that, the bottom, and then it would be covered like 1/4 of an inch, and then I will this will get cut down, but I'll have trees and stuff. So yeah, I think I want this panel a bit taller. Maybe about 3 inches in height and 3.5 inches in width. I think that will be good. Because then I'm going to use some Mama Elephant little agenda stamps. I want Santa to be flying through the sky, but I want him going from right to left instead of left to right, just because of the way the mountains are. I mean, either way, I could mirror stamp either one of these, but I think I'm going to mirror stamp Santa and just have him coming up this way. And then I will stamp 2 of these little reindeer so that it looks like he's flying. And then I might add 1 or 2 of these bigger ones in the foreground just to create some perspective. And I might also stamp another one of the reindeer for the middle layer with the trees. We'll see. But yeah, that's my plan for today. So I will move over to voiceover and you'll see how this card comes together. Hey guys, voiceover Liz here. So I did speed up the video today a little bit more than normal. Usually I do about 3 times, which is fine. This time I have to do 5, and I did cut out coloring some things. Mostly just one thing, because I did one of the reindeer twice. So I didn't think you needed to watch me do that again. I mean, you probably didn't need to watch me color all of the reindeer anyway, because I did them all exactly the same. But I left that in there anyway. But this card did take me quite a bit of time. It took me a little over an hour to do the card, just because there's a lot of like coloring, and little tiny images that I used are a little bit harder to color because you don't want to bleed out on any of your colors over the lines. With these background images, they're lawn fawn, so they're thicker lines help with coloring a little bit. But the little agenda stamps from Mama Elephant have the thinner lines, so coloring them with alcohol marker sometimes is a little bit difficult in some of the little tiny areas. So you just have to be like a little bit more careful and just, you know, lightly touch your markers to the page so that it doesn't bleed out. I find that although they're smaller and quicker to color, at the same time they're not, because you need to be a little bit more careful with it. But that's just me. If anybody else feels that way, you can let me know down in the comments. But yeah, I did do quite a few images on this card, which is unusual for me because I tend to not make them as busy. I probably could have done the Santa flying with the reindeer and got away with just those images, but I wanted to add a few more just to help build out a scene. So the story for this one, it's kind of like Santa's off with his reindeer. Maybe he's making a pit stop at home to pick up some more presents and stuff, because the reindeers that I selected both have gifts with them. One has a bag full of presents, and then the other one has like a couple in their hands. So I feel like they're, you know, either Santa's doing a dry run before he goes out just to make sure everybody's good, or they're bringing him some extra presents that maybe he missed. Who knows, you know. I like to come up with little stories. So that's the little story for today. For these background images, I'm just going to fussy cut them out because I don't want them to have that white border. I don't have the dies for the set either, so I would have to probably cut them on my scan and cut, but I decided to cut up right against the line so I didn't have to worry about the white border there, because I would most likely color it in at some point so that it matched with the background anyway. And then same with these mountains. I feel like maybe this would be something I would get the die for eventually, if I planned on using it a little bit more, but I tend to do either one layer coloring backgrounds with these, or do it like this and just cut it out. They're simple enough shapes that I don't have a problem doing it. And then I just run my black marker along the edges just to give it that clean finished look. And then I noticed there was like some fingerprints on the snowy area a little bit, so I did try to blend that out a bit. It's still kind of there, but it does mostly get hidden by the images that I use, so I'm just going to leave it. Also, I should not have do what I say, not as I do. I should have glued the insert in first before I glued the other side on. Again, I usually start with the left side and go to the right side for whatever reason. And I think I was just so excited to get this card assembled that I just did the whole like front piece and didn't put the insert in. Normally I would glue the left side, put the left side inserts in, and then fold them all together and glue them together. So it was a little bit of a struggle. I also realized that the panel that I put these trees on was a little bit taller at the back on the left-hand side. It kind of like dipped below. So I end up cutting it out a little bit more, and then I moved it up so that that edge was flush with the edge of the hill, if that makes sense. But then that also meant that I had to bring the right side up a bit too. I don't love it that it kind of just goes straight up, but at the same time, it really doesn't matter. I know that MFT did that a lot with their 3D box cards. They had it so that it would like go straight up. I like to like blend it in to the side just so that it looks a little bit more like it was meant to be that way and not that it was tossed in just as a separate panel. But that's my preference. That's how I usually do my cut files, is I make sure that they blend into the side panel. But for this one, I just kind of let it go. It wasn't a huge deal to me this time around, and I just left it. And then for coloring the images, I only used 2 colors most of the time anyway, but I did a little bit of shading just because I didn't want to do flat color. I do like that little tiny bit of shading, even if it is just such a small area. It does really help the images out, so I think I would still recommend doing that. And then a lot of these like little presents and stuff, like I just had to like touch the marker very briefly to it to get it colored in. And then for Santa's sleigh, I probably could have done it a different color, but it's red. Everything for Santa is red, so it's just, he blends in a little bit to the sleigh, but that's okay. We'll just let it go. I think maybe doing like a wooden one would have been fun too. I've never done that before, actually. I think I always color Santa's sleigh red. I don't think I've ever done it in another color. And I don't think I've actually ever done it that often, to be honest. I think I've used this image once before. And then I have another set from MFT that I was going to de-stash. That also has like Santas and a sleigh, and I don't even think I used the sleigh for that. I just wanted the Santas specifically. That's the problem with stamp sets sometimes. Like you'll buy them for like a specific image in the set and not necessarily for the whole set. And I still do that to this day. If I want a specific image, I will buy the set. There are tons of stamps that I have never used in some of my sets. It's like so crazy. I'm like looking at them and they're still like perfectly in the spot where they're supposed to be. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever used that one. Maybe I should try using it at some point. But that's just me ranting and raving about that. Like, you don't need to use up everything in the set. As long as you're using what you wanted to use and you're getting the use out of it, I think it's fine. But yeah, so I am just coloring in all my reindeer. Again, little light shadows here and there. Not too much, not getting too complicated, just doing very quick cell shading, not trying to blend it in or make it look like it's, you know, seamless blends or anything. And I think it works. These are, again, quick, simple little images. I am doing my restamping to bring back those black lines. You'll see me stamp the second reindeer here, but then I cut out the part where I colored it because it looks exactly the same as that one on the top right there. The bigger one here, I don't end up using. I ended up putting that one aside. You'll see in a bit here, I'm just gonna play around with placement. But I do not end up using this bigger reindeer. I end up going with like a big, bold sentiment on the front instead. And then just moving these little reindeer around. I spent a lot of time trying to like lay this out because again, I have a vision in mind usually when I make a card, but I don't necessarily have an entire layout, especially with scenes like this, because I feel like once you get it put together, things might change, which is what the case was in this situation. I did exactly what I wanted for the sky area. And then these other couple of reindeers were just a little extras. I could have actually made Santa look like he was flying in the sky on that center panel that pops out where the trees are, and left it at that. I think that would have been cute too without these extra reindeers. You could have also included the extra reindeer elsewhere on the card. Maybe leave the one in the back and this other one move it to the front or something. If you want to do it that way, you just use acetate strips to hold up your images. And I think that would be cute. It would make it look a little bit even more dimensional with Santa flying in the sky. You could also, again, just leave it with just Santa and the 2 reindeer in the center panel. Or you could just leave your scene blank too. It doesn't really matter. You could fill it up as much as you want or not fill it up as much as you want. And then for the sentiment, I ended up grabbing the Mama Elephant Puffy Holiday Greetings set. It had this big bold sentiment that I stamped in the same red, because the red is throughout the card because I used it for the reindeer's collars. They have like these little bow collars on, and I just wanted to bring that to the bottom of the card as well, and I think it looks really good as like this big bold sentiment at the front. It helps bring that red chunky from Santa up top down below and make sure I move throughout the card. I had to recut the back panel here because I have a feeling I used the original one I had for the mountains and then forgot about it. So I recut the back. I rounded off the top corners just to give it a little bit more of a finished look. And then we're adding in that, you know, controlled snow with the acrylic paint and my dotting tools. I usually do the background first, and then I'll do little dots over the characters. Not too many because I don't want to cover the characters up, but just a few to indicate that they are in part of the scene, that they are in the snowy area and it's not just in the background. But yeah, that's pretty much our card for today, guys. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below, and let me know your thoughts. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe because I'd love to have you here. I hope you all have a great weekend, and until next time, thanks guys! Bye!